And we're back with Newsmaker Live. Jerry George filling in for Clinton Reynolds. My guest tonight, if in case you're just joining us, is Dr. Gail Regobert, who has been nominated as Deputy Leader of the Opposition United Workers' Party, but who is also, in fact, the Miku North MP. I want to ask you, if I recall, and I hope you do, I did ask you at one time whether you would run for the the leader of the party. So to my surprise, when the nomination came, that you did throw yourself, or accepted the nomination. Was there a change of heart? Was there a reason why you said yes rather than no?
No, the question that was always posed to me was whether I would consider the leadership of the party in the position of political leader. Our constitution differentiates between the political leader and the deputy political leader as two separate positions. And certainly when I was nominated for the position of deputy political leader, I thought it quite honorable. I thought it was a welcome indication of my party's faith in me, and an invitation to put my muscle to the wheel and to get in deeper.
Okay, now you are now heading in a certain direction. Your nomination has also come with that of, I think, Mr. Montoot?
Yes.
Right. So I think the overall visibility in the news are two persons in terms of Mr. Stephenson King, Honorable Stephenson King, and Mr. Alan Shastney. I think a lot of people would say that on one hand we have somebody who's been regarded as a weak leader, somebody who has not done justice to the prime ministership in previous times, and we have another person who appears to be avaricious for the position. At least that is what we hear on the ground. Do you see that as being closer to both of these gentlemen?
I certainly would not describe it in the way that you have. I belong to a party which is democratic, transparent, open, and encourages the development of young politicians, female politicians. I must say that Mr. King has done a formidable task as Prime Minister. He would have had to fit into very big shoes because his immediate he had to assume the prime ministership upon the passing of Sir John, and that's no easy feat. The expectation that comes with that, I'm sure, was tremendous. Well, the expectation that came with that, I'm sure, was tremendous. So I must applaud him for having, braved the storm and said, hey, I'll step up to the plate and I'll do this. The beauty of this party is we have no shortage of talent. And I think people underestimate our collective talent. And when you match that with our democratic principles and the openness of the party, it affords anyone, any member of the party, and if you're not a member, you're welcome to join, to, upon having joined the party, to assume responsibility, to lend up their talent, in whichever way they're best predisposed to doing so. And I think what the ongoing conversation has proven is that we have tremendous talent. Our party is a progressive party. We are open-minded. We appreciate those who have gone before us and have done the groundwork, the groundbreaking work to make way for young politicians like myself. And to the extent that we are evolving is healthy. It's very, very healthy.
But don't you think it sends a message that you should see the kind of opposition to Mr. King's leadership at this time in terms of Mr. Shastney seeking to be the party leader?
The Constitution allows it. Our party encourages it. I think scientifically, don't you think the legitimacy that any given leader can acquire from having contested for his or her position, that legitimacy, that mandate, is really a tremendous source of power. And to the extent that our party allows it, and in such an open and transparent way, I think is laudable.
Okay. Now, with your nomination, were you surprised by it?
Not really, to the extent that several persons had had conversations with me, encouraging me to. And it came to the point where I thought, okay, this must be the divine voice speaking through several persons. So maybe now is the time. Maybe I should, take heed and say yay.
Let me just tell our viewers that you will be getting a chance to speak directly to Dr. Regobert in just a moment. The number will appear on the screen, and you can call us and ask her questions concerning what we've been discussing or any other issues you may want to raise, both in terms of her personal life as well as her political life. But Dr. Regobert, I want to ask you, I mean, we have just seen the release of the financial review report on the town and village councils. And in a sense, it's damning when you read about some of the goings on in terms of, the outcome that has happened in these towns and village council, which points directly to a lot of wrongdoings by persons involved in your party. Have you seen the report yourself?
I do have a copy.
You've read it?
Not cover to cover. I'm in the process.
But you get a sense of what is going on.
Well, as a good academic, I am very much intent on reading it cover to cover. And as one approaches any piece of literature, one ought to ask oneself, what is the intent of the author? What is the provocation behind the publication? The same way you said to me, what motivated you to write my book? In the same way, the question needs to be asked, what would have motivated one to engage in that kind of review? And was it necessary, and why? So it is not simply that one sits with a few pages and reads it in abstraction, but you need to understand the context within which it may have been written, the provocation, the intent, and all these things have to be taken into consideration. So as I peruse...
So you're saying that there has been a deliberate effort to shift, to do things that are unnecessary?
One ought to ask the question, what is the intent? What is the motivation? What is the expected outcome?
And from your position, what do you think the intent was?
Until such time as I've gone through all of the pages and have been able to assimilate all of the information, I will withhold my comments on that.
At this time, let me tell you that we can take your calls right now. The calls, the number will appear on your screen, and you can call us and ask your questions to Dr. Gail Regobert. Now, Dr. Regobert, what I wanted to look at also is that your vision for St. Lucia, before we take our first call, what, in terms of entering politics, but your vision for St. Lucia, you've showed me your constitution, and you've spoken glowingly, as I expect any member of any party to do. But what would you say is your hope in terms of the separation from one party to the next? What is the vision you see?
My personal vision is to see families lifted out of poverty. I really would like to see all children in this country have a fair chance at education from primary level through to tertiary education. For too long, education has been elitist in our part of the world, and we need to do a lot more to ensure that one's socioeconomic circumstances do not dictate how far one goes. So I really would love to lift families out of poverty by making education more accessible and making education less elitist. I think it's a human right almost, to be educated.
Now, that vision is quite broad. And do you see yourself working with the opposition St. Lucia Labour Party in ensuring that vision is achieved?
Absolutely.
Is there
I have
room within
had,
that vision for
oh
the
yes,
St. Lucia Labour
any
Party?
opportunity that exists for me to make a contribution to bettering the conditions of the people of St. Lucia, I welcome that opportunity. And I've had conversations in that regard. What is best for St. Lucia?
We'll take our first caller. Go ahead, please, caller.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
First tonight, I want to congratulate Miss Regobert.
Thank you.
Right, and at the end of it, I would like her to, if she could speak our English, please break it down for us. I think the questions are posed in terms of the report, the audit report. And I think she said she has not fully perused it as yet, but I think she can give a little highlight on what she read, and to have said that she's going to hold her statements towards that document in a later forum. I think that I think you should just give us a breakdown on what do you think about that report, although it's a report of non-significant to me, because to me all the governments do it. I mean, I don't see why this time this one is taken very serious. But all the governments are doing it. The NCA, the Greenberg, the Huntley affair, all of that is has to take into consideration. However, I think that I like her, but at the same time, I would like her to speak our English. She reminds me of one person, Ellen John. If you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Jerry George.
Well, I do understand, but I don't agree, because I do understand what she's saying, and I think she's speaking basically in...
Well, she speaks. Well, I'm not saying she don't speak well, but at the same time, we need to understand what she really.
Okay, let me just ask you, what didn't you understand?
Well, certain questions
for example,
even including the report and including the statement about how does it feel for Mr. Alan Shasti taking over the position as the leader. I mean, I think she should enlighten it and break it down a little bit, and and explain to her if what she likes. It's a democratic country, and it's a democratic process. But at the end of it, she can give her own personal opinion about if he's the correct person for the job. And all of that. So I think that she should do not reveal too many things. The populace is watching her closely, and then she is one of the prospective leaders. So we need her to speak our English too.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Thank you very kindly. That's very gracious of you, and thanks for being frank.
Do you get that much? In terms of speaking.
Well, I understand and appreciate where people come from sometimes, and what their personal desires might be, and what they would love to hear, and how they would love to hear it. But let me tell you, Jerry, as a citizen of this country and as a politician, I believe very firmly in the principles of accountability and transparency, and I think my party too shares that view. And wherever anyone may have fallen short in that regard, our party has mechanisms of dealing with that, and so too does our country through its constitution. And I will not hesitate to say that where there is wrongdoing needs to be corrected. Wrongdoing needs not to be encouraged. With respect to the report, it would be very foolhardy of me to proceed with a comment on something I have not read in detail. I continue to peruse, to read through. Perhaps that's what the caller would have liked me to say. Because when people tell me, because my point to case my power buy way posme mais ça bien debout parce que moi déjà kai ça lit tout ça qui livre là, and it's important, and you know it's a sense of responsibility as well. We do not want to encourage premature comments on anything, and it's something that I am slightly concerned about. There's a lot of conversation on any given topic where opinions are shared here, there, and the other, and one is not sure what the basis is. I don't want to fall into that bracket. I think I know better. I think that if I'm to comment on something, I need to be fully aware of what's in there. And especially with respect to this report, as it pertains to St. Lucian's, as it pertains to my party, that I have a responsibility to be very clinical in my reading of it, so that when I would have formed my opinion, I can stand behind it very, very firmly.
We have another call. Caller, go ahead, please.
Good night.
Good night, sir.
Yeah, I want to connect to Dr. Gail Regobert. And the last elections in Mikodnov, I did not vote for her. Right, but now I can say that I respect her a little. You know why? Because Dr. Regobert is showing us that she is for the people, that she is not taking sides. And I really, and I commend her the statement she just made, that any wrongdoing, that the person must be found accountable. But she have not read the
Hello?
thing for us to make any comment, and I respect that. Regobert continue fighting for Mikodnov. And I can tell you, I did not vote for you the last time, but I can see some faith in you now, because you are fighting for Mikud. Fight for Mikud. Put Mikud first, and not Gail first, but Mikud first. Thank you.
Now, sir, before you go ahead, how is she doing that?
Well, she's the way she speaks, you know. Oh, you see? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, the way she, you know, expresses herself. The kind of English she gives. We need this. And they're saying that she's Yankee, whatever. This is the kind of standard English we need in the house, because they made a mess out of themselves. The people that said they were teachers, the way they spoke in there, you know, it was just degrading. So, Dr. Regobert, fight for Mikud. We need to be on the map. Poale, thank you for the jetty.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Yes, get back to you. I thought I had heard that we had another caller. The number is on your screen, viewers, and if you wish to speak to Dr. Regobert, you can call that number and have a conversation with her. Okay, before I ask my next question, I understand we have a caller.
Hi.
Go ahead. Good
Hi,
night.
good night.
Yes, go
Good
ahead.
night to you, Mr. George and Miss Regobert.
Good night. Good night. Thank you for
Hello.
calling.
I'm just apologizing for the way I speak, because the last caller was really a bit funny, so I'm still laughing at this comment. So, anyway, I wanted to congratulate Dr. Regobert on her appointment. I was hoping that she'd be in the running for the leadership of the party. And she's one lady I've really, really admired from the time she's entered politics. I didn't know her before the entrance of politics. And I could say she's a role model to a lot of women who aspire to become politicians. And one thing is like just the way she speaks, especially when she speaks in the house, it's like whatever you're doing, you have to drop it and you have to listen. She makes you listen to her, and I feel very, I don't know, there's something about her that is very encouraging, and I just know that she'll do a good job. And when they were like saying that there was UWP needed a new leader, I thought she would be in the running. And I think she'd be a very good leader. And I think a lot of people, just in general, the politicians, she just brings something different to the table. You know, you don't like stick to one side, but you're very fair. And then the way she fights for people is commendable. And I just want to encourage her to continue her good work. And then we'll see more of her in the coming years. So have a good night and
you.
thank you.
Thank you very kindly, caller, and you have a pleasant evening as well.
Yes. My question to you before we went to the caller was that you coming from an academic background, and I know in St. Lucia we have always heard that persons who have gone to university. We do have a caller. Good night, caller. Thank you for calling. Oh, persons have gone to university. I think the public, because quite a few have been more or less. Oh, we have a caller. Good evening, caller. Good night.
Hello, good night.
Go ahead, please. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, my question is like, if somebody give me money to hold for them, I would have a report, say not how I spend the money. Okay, and I just find it strange that there is no report from the UWP saying like that's how they spend the money. So I'm just find that strange. And I want to ask Dr. Regobert if she has a report of the money she received and how she spent it. Okay?
Caller, let me remind you that I did not. The caller. Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. You know, Jerry, this discussion is healthy because it tells us that with respect to our political culture, that the citizens are asking questions. And we as a party are prepared to answer those questions in keeping with our principles of accountability and transparency.
We have another caller. Good night. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Hello.
I really want to ask, why do you want to run for a prime minister? Is it to help the environment or just to stop the violence?
That sounds like a young caller.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. How are you, darling?
Fine.
Fine. How was school today?
Fine.
Good. Did you do any reading today?
Yes.
Good. What did you read?
I read about princesses.
Really? You must be a lovely princess yourself.
I am.
Oh, excellent. Thanks for calling. I really appreciate it. And say a little prayer for me tonight, okay?
Yes.
Oh, you take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
So she was asking whether your portfolio would include the environment and stop the violence.
I really want to congratulate the caller for having the courage to call in and ask those questions. Climate change is a serious issue, and I have very strong views on the urgency to move in a direction which is more sustainable and to embrace ways of doing things that will ensure that generations from now that human beings can live comfortably on this planet. And to the extent that I have, in my very quiet moments, reflected on the progress we have made in this country with respect to alternative sources of energy, and with respect to, like the young lady asked, issues on violence. And these really do matter to me. And that is one of the reasons, let me take this moment, if you don't mind, to applaud the work of the Community Relations Branch of the Micoud Police Force. I've been working very, very closely with them with regard to a new form of policing, to pay greater attention to preventing crime, to nipping the issues in the bud. So, for example, a couple months ago, we had a walk against violence against children or child abuse. So I'm very much involved in those kinds of activities. And so a quick response to the caller is, yes, I'm very much interested in the environment, and absolutely I have concerns about violence, very concerned about the environment, and I have concerns about violence in all of its forms, whether it be physical violence, and let us not forget psychological and emotional violence.
Right, we'll be back in just a moment, and we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with your calls. Remember to call the number on your screen to Dr. Gail Regobert. Back in a moment.